Welcome to the course on C Programming Learn to Code series. This is the 8th lecture of Unit 3, and in this lecture we will introduce the concept of loop control structure, or sometimes called iteration control structure. One of the loop control structure is known as while loop. So this lecture is dedicated on the discussion of while loop. So let's begin the discussion. First of all, let us understand what do you mean by loop control structure. Suppose you have a program with some line of code and you want to execute some line among these lines repeatedly. Let's say line number 4, 5, 6, you want to execute it repeatedly. Then you need to include these lines inside your loop control statement. Every loop control statement has a body represented with a curly braces, opening and closing. So whenever you are writing the statement inside the loop control statement's body, then those statements will be repeatedly executed. So how to implement this loop control structure? There are three techniques. One is called while, second one is do while, and third one is for loop. So these three techniques will be used for implementing the loop control structure. We will discuss the first one, that is while loop, in this lecture. So before we discuss about this while loop, let us understand how the loop control structure is written. Whenever any loop control structure will be written, there are three sections need to be written properly so that your statements will be executed repeatedly. So the three sections are loop initialization, loop update, and stopping condition. Loop initialization will be done before the loop start, and it is executed only once. You can assume this is a line of code in your loop control statement. Then the stopping condition has to be written. The stopping condition helps the loop to execute until and unless the condition becomes false. So this part represents until and unless the condition becomes true, we will enter inside the body of the loop. So the body of the loop, as I have already told you, contains the statement to be executed. Okay. To make the stopping condition false, inside the body of the loop, the last section is written, that is called loop update. Loop update helps the condition to be stopped at some moment of time. Okay, so this forms a looping, or we can say this forms a loop, and the body of the loop which contains the statements will be executed multiple times. When this stopping condition becomes false, we come out of this loop through this path and goes to the exit part of your loop. So this is how the loop control structure is written. To make you more familiar with the process flow, I have taken a simple analogy that is called fill the water tank. Over here you can notice a water tank is present. Our objective is to fill this up. Means we are going to fill it completely with water. At some distance there is a tap connected and a bucket is present over there. Okay, this man's responsibility is to fill this tank by bringing water from this tap through your bucket. Okay, now let us understand what the man is going to do. The man will bring the water by filling the bucket, come near the tank, put all the water inside the tank and check whether the tank is getting filled up or not. Then he is going back, again fill the bucket, then bring the water and put it inside the tank, and so on. So this forms a loop actually. So that means he is doing the same task repeatedly. So when somebody is doing the same task repeatedly, then that type of things is called a loop, right? Now according to this analogy, how this analogy help you understand the techniques that we have discussed in the last slide. So the last slide says there will be three different sections of writing a loop control statement. The first one is called loop initialization. So what is loop initialization in this analogy? The loop initialization is nothing but bringing an empty bucket. Okay, might be this man has a bucket in his home which may not be empty. It may contain some other item. So loop initialization means you have to bring an empty bucket okay, by removing all the items that was previously present in the bucket. So that is actually called the initialization statement for this loop to execute. This loop means this example, whatever loop we are discussing over here. To execute this loop, you need a empty bucket, and that is called the initialization statement for this problem. Okay. The next statement or the next section is nothing but your stopping condition. So for this analogy, what will be the stopping condition? Obviously, when the tank gets filled up, that must be representing your stopping condition. So that means until the tanks gets filled up. That means every time I put a bucket of water inside the tank, I will check whether the tank has filled up or not. Okay, so that is called the stopping condition for this loop. So that is the responsibility of this man, whether the tank is filled up or not. The last section that we have discussed is called loop update. So what do you mean by loop update in this analogy? The loop update here, obviously you can easily say that filling up the bucket again and again. So this filling up the bucket helps the tanks to be filled. If you don't fill the bucket, then the tank will never fill up. That is why the loop update section for this analogy will be fill the bucket again and again. So I hope you understand what do you mean by a control statement. Now to implement this control statement, we have three techniques that I have already told you. So generally the entire control statement is divided into this parts, and we have already discussed this, so no need to explain it again. So we are here in the iteration part, iteration or looping part. All these techniques which is represented with the green colored boxes has already been discussed. Now we are here, so that is loop control statement, and we are going to discuss about while loop. So let's begin the discussion of while loop. So first thing first, let us understand the syntax of a while loop. So I will write the syntax in a different way so that you can easily understand the concept as well as the syntax. So assume that these are the statement number 1 through n you want to execute multiple times. So as I have already told you, these statements need to be included inside the body of the while loop. So generally the body is represented something like this. Okay, body is represented with the opening curly braces and the closing curly braces. Okay, and to represent the control statement, this is written something like this, while inside the bracket we need to write the condition. Okay, so until the condition becomes satisfied, these statements gets executed. When the condition becomes false, the control will never enter into the body and the statements execution will be stopped. Okay, to achieve this condition to be false means at some moment of time the condition need to be false so that the statement will not execute. So how to achieve that? That will be achieved through the loop update statement, which is represented as increment or decrement. What do you mean by increment or decrement? You will shortly notice with some program. First of all, you understand that this is the loop update statement which helps the condition to be false at some instance of time. Okay, and obviously before the loop start there must be an initialization statement which is represented over here. So if you think about the sections of loop control statement, the sections of this syntax is something like this. The first line, which is called the loop initialization statement. The second stopping condition is represented within this bracket of the while loop. Here while is a keyword. Okay, and finally the loop update section will be represented with increment and decrement. The similar flow of that is called flow chart is represented in over here for the while loop itself, where the initialization will be executed once. After executing the initialization statement, the control will check the condition. If the condition becomes true, it will enter the body of the loop. So the body of the loop contains two things. One is called the statements and the increment or decrement part. After that, the control will going on executing this until the condition becomes false. When the condition becomes false, we will exit from the loop. This is how the syntax will work. So let us understand it with a simple example over here. So let me open the VS Code. Let's say I want to execute some of the line multiple times. So what I'm going to do? Let us first write the structure of the C program. So hash include stdio.h, then your void main, right? After that, let me write some statement. So let's say I want to print two statement, or I want to execute two statement multiple times. The first statement will be something like this: incredible India. Okay, this is the first statement. Let me use a backslash n over here so that it will be printed in a separate line every time. Then again another printf statement I want to include. That means I want to execute this two statement multiple times. I love my country. Okay, so this is the two statement that I want to execute multiple times. So what we need to do, we need to include these two statement inside the while loop, obviously. So let me cut from here, let me write the while. So what is the condition that I'm going to show you in a moment. So first of all, you think that while loop is written something like this, and inside that body, so body which is represented in two curly braces, I will include these two statement over here. Okay, so this two statement that I want to execute, so that is why I have included inside the body of the while loop. Now what should be the condition? So the condition is depend upon the initialization part, because the value I will initialize to a variable will help me execute this statement that many times. Let's say I want to execute this two line three times, then my initialization could be something like this. I will use a variable int I is equal to 0. So this is the initialization, means getting a variable which is initialized to 0. So we know that not we, the compiler knows that whenever some condition is true inside this while loop, he will execute these lines. So what should I write so that this statement will be true for three more time? So I obviously write I is less than 3. Okay, so when 0 will be less than 3, condition satisfied, we will execute this too. Similarly, at some moment of time I should be updated to 1. So 1 is less than 3, then this will be executed second time. Then I need to be updated to 2. So 2 is less than 3. So this statement will be executed third time. Okay, and when I becomes 3 by updating, then 3 less than 3 we will come out. So when the condition becomes false, this statement has already been executed for 3 times. So obviously we need to update the value of I so that the loop will continue. Okay, so how does the update statement will be written? It will be written through incrementation process. So I should be incremented by 1, I is equal to I plus 1, something like this. I should not write I is equal to I minus 1. Otherwise, if I will write I is equal to I minus 1, then I will be decreased. That means I has been initialized to 0. So when it is decreased, it will go on decreasing, that is minus 1, minus 2, minus 3. So every time that number is less than 3, and these statements will be executed throughout its life. Okay, it will never stop. That is why to stop this condition, or to make at some moment of time to make it false, I need to increase the value of I. Okay, I think you understand how this while loop is written. First of all, let me run this code and I'll show you that this two statement will be executed 3 times, and 3 times these values gets printed. So after that I will show you how this statements gets executed. Let me run this code. If you run this code, you can see 3 times all these things gets executed. This is one time: incredible India, I love my country. Incredible India, I love my country. Incredible India, I love my country. So 3 times gets executed. So let us understand it all the way, means it will be understand it in a proper way. So how does things gets executed? The first line which is executed over here is int I is equal to 0. So that means I will be initialized with the value 0. I is a variable over here. So this is your condition. So this part is called your initialization. This part is your condition. So that is 0 is less than 3. Condition satisfied. So satisfied means we will enter into the loop. The first time this will be executed and this will be executed. So this part will be finished. One time it is printed. Then I gets incremented. Then the control will come here. So I get incremented means another time the things will be checked. 1 is less than 3. Condition satisfied. So satisfied means this two line gets executed. That is why this 2 line you will get as output over here. Okay, then I will be updated. So I mean updated means 2 is less than 3, condition again satisfied. This 2 line again gets executed and you will get the output third time. Okay, similarly again I gets incremented. So when I gets incremented, that is 3 is less than 3. So obviously 3 is less than 3, condition becomes false. So when this is false, we will come out of this loop. That means there will be no statement after the out of the loop. That is why the program stops over here. Okay, so this is how the things gets executed. I hope you understand the concept. Now what is the use of that decrementation operation? So can this program will be executed through decrementation? Yes, obviously. So how to do that? I have to initialize I value as 3. Okay, then I need to write I is greater than 0 over here, and finally I need to decrease the value of I over here. So the things will be same. Let me run this program and I'll show you that we will get the same output over here. So you can notice the output is same. So how it is done? It is done something like this. If you notice, initially I becomes initialized to 3, which will be executed only once. Then 3 greater than 0 condition satisfied. This 2 line gets executed and we will get the output somewhere here. Then I will be decremented. So decremented means 2 is greater than 0 is executed. The condition again satisfied. This 2 line gets executed again. We will get this 2 line. Finally, I will be decremented to 1. 1 is greater than 0. Condition again satisfied. This 2 line again executed. So we will get this 2 line. Okay, finally I will be decremented by 1 again. So 0 is greater than 0, which is false. So we will come out of this loop. Okay, so this is how the things gets executed. I hope you understand the entire thing that we have discussed in this lecture. If you have still any doubt in understanding the while loop, you can easily post your questions, or you are required to post your questions in the comment section. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.